Hey everybody, this is Justin from the Entertainment Outlet, and I'm here with the one and only Mark Tremonti from Alter Bridge and from any number of projects you may know him from. Mark, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. So it's exciting times for Alter Bridge. You guys are about to head to Europe for your first tour since before the pandemic, and tomorrow you guys release your seventh album, Pawns and Kings.
Yes, sir. Big days tomorrow.
So what was the process like for you guys in making this album? Was it something you guys had been working on before or during the pandemic, or has it all been more recent? And sort of how does it compare to the process of your earlier albums?
I always start writing as soon as I finish mixing the previous record. I start writing the next record. So as soon as Marching in Time was done with the Tremonti project, I started writing this record, and then we got like a 10-month, 11-month window where we had a studio date coming. So me and Miles went into panic mode and just started writing like crazy for those 10 or 11 months, and then we would put songs into a Dropbox file, share it with the band, and then we got into pre-production for about 2 weeks, going through all those demos and making sure they sounded like Alter Bridge, and everybody put their spin on it.
Now, it seems like you and Miles are always competing for who's the busiest musician in rock and roll.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Between
Absolutely.
all the projects you're both involved in. But one that caught my attention was earlier this year, you released Tremonti Sings Sinatra. And that certainly surprised me. If you'd had me guess, I don't know, 15 artists you'd cover, that probably wouldn't have been on the list
Yeah.
for me. And you pulled it off well as
Thank you.
well. So I was wondering what influenced your decision to do that.
So I was obsessed. I mean, I've always loved Sinatra, but I became obsessed with singing like him and studying his style. And about 2 years into it, we got a diagnosis that my daughter was going to be born with Down syndrome. So I was like, this was meant to be. He raised over $1 billion for charity, so I'm going to sing a Sinatra record, do it to raise money for charity, and start an organization called Take a Chance for Charity, where I challenge other people to do something their fans would never expect them to do to raise money for charity.
It sounds like a very great cause. It certainly affects you personally.
Absolutely.
You have a couple of shows lined up to perform the material.
Yeah, we've done 3 shows now. I'm doing another show in London on December 15th, and then Orlando December 29th, and then March 2nd in New York next year for the big Down syndrome gala. And then we're just try to do as many as we can. It's I have a lot of fun doing it. So as many shows as I can do, I'm going to be doing.
I'm sure they're going to be great shows, and hope the fans turn out and support the cause.
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk a little about guitars and guitarists. And I know you mentioned, Sinatra was one of your vocal influences, but growing up, who were some of your big guitar influences? And then are there any sort of younger, more modern players that, excite you seeing them coming up?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was really inspired by speed metal. So it was the Metallica guys. Megadeth was a big one. Testament, Anthrax,
Hard to go wrong with those guys.
Death Angel. So I was all about the right hand speed, horse galloping and speed metal stuff. And then as I grew up a bit, I got more into playing the more I fell into the shred thing for a while. I really wanted to learn how to just play as technically as I could. And then after a while, I just started getting more into guys that play blues and jazz.
Right.
I think every young guitar player wants to do the flashy stuff. Then they grow up and they mature and they want to do the more emotion, the more stuff that's more emotive. So now, players like Mateus Asado is just, to me, one of the greatest guitar players that's ever walked the earth. Derek Trucks could be the best guitar player. I don't know. He's, Joe Bonamassa and Eric Gales and Josh Smith. These are all, there's so many incredible players out there right now. It's hard to, I could just keep going and going and going.
Right. Now, you've always been associated with Paul Reed Smith guitars. When I think of PRS, I think of, probably you and Santana are the first two that come to mind. And what drew you to PRS? Certainly when you think of, all the speed metal, that's not something you typically picture someone picking one of those up.
So I worked at a guitar store in Tallahassee when I was in college, and the PRSs would always be on the top shelf. You couldn't even touch them if you were an employee. They were expensive and they were the best guitars in the shop.
Yeah.
Other than the 1 or 2 Les Pauls they had hanging in there. And I always, thought they were amazing guitars. And then one day our van got stolen when we were on tour, and I lost all my guitars. So I got an insurance claim for about $10,000. So I went and bought a PRS guitar, my very first guitar with that insurance claim. And you know, it just it didn't suit me well because the knobs were in different places and the switches were in different places, and the tone was a little rounder than I was used to. So years later, I got a call from Jeff Lanahan from PRS Guitars asking me if I'd be interested in playing their guitars. And he sent me a McCarty, which I absolutely love. I still have it sitting right next to me over here. Yep. But it's, you know, a guitar that I've written almost more than any other guitar. I've written more songs on that than almost any other guitar, but still, it's not a guitar I can use on stage. So I went back and forth with them saying, you know, I love your guitars, but I can't use them on stage. They'd send me all these different guitars. And finally, like, why don't we just make you one to your specs? And at that point, it was only Carlos Santana and myself.
Yep.
So it was one of my biggest honors of my career. And I got to dial it in exactly how I wanted. You know, it's a modern take on a single cut, and my favorite guitar.
Santana's certainly not bad company to be lumped in with.
No. What a great human being, great player.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you get asked about Creed reunions all the time, so I'm not going to bring that up. But I mean, with your schedule, I don't know where you'd fit it in.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of fans want to know: do you and Scott have any contact with each other? Are you guys friends? Do you talk at all?
You know, maybe a couple times a year we'll connect. But you know, we're both so busy running around doing our own things that you know, if something comes up, we'll get on the phone and discuss it. You know, but with the Alter Bridge record coming out tomorrow and Sinatra stuff going on, it's hard to dive in and change gears. You know, it's,
of course,
the Creed thing would just have to happen if the time's right and when we have, you know, the proper time to get behind it.
Yeah, if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah.
So with the new album, is there one song off of it that you're really looking forward to playing live?
I think Sin After Sin is going to be fun. You know, it's just a nice, heavy, slow. I think live, those heavier, slower songs really work well.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. I've been to a bunch of Alter Bridge shows, and you guys always put on a great performance.
Appreciate it.
I'm sure the new material is going to fit in great. So you mentioned as soon as you finish one project, you start writing the next one. So what's the next thing going on in your mind right now?
Oh man, I'm just writing. I know I've written 4 or 5 songs right now, and it could go either way. But you know, it's probably going to be a Tremonti record next, or I might do another. Who knows? I might do another project, another top secret project in the meantime.
Very cool. With your US tour coming up, you guys have Wolfgang Van Halen opening up for you guys. And in the Tremonti band, you know, he was playing bass for you for a while. And I was just wondering, how did you make that connection with Wolfie?
He was an Alter Bridge fan earlier on, and he came out to some shows, and we met him he came out to our sound check and invited us to Van Halen sound checks. And then one day I was in LA, and he called me and said, "Hey man, you want to come to Van Halen practice tomorrow?" Like,
if I have
to. No, yeah. So he picked me up and took me to his dad's house, 5150 Studios, and I got to sit in a little studio with the guys. You know, other than Roth wasn't there, but the 3 other guys were there, and they played the whole new record for me. And it's one of those moments where you're scratching your head, like, why am I standing right here? And I remember giving compliments to Wolfie as they're playing these songs, and he'd play these really cool bass lines. And I'd say, you know, that chordal part you did right there was really cool, man. And Eddie looked at me, he's like, well, were my parts cool? Of course your parts were cool. You're Eddie Van Halen, man.
Goes without saying.
Absolutely.
Very cool. All right, well, I don't want to hold up too much of your time, so I'll let you get back to getting ready to hit the road. We're looking forward to catching you soon.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You rock on.
Brother. Bye-bye.